Laptop computer spins onto the screen, opens, and displays ATP Education Program webinar series, closes, and then spins off the screen.
Hi everyone, welcome to Visual Schedules. Using visual schedules for students with ASD. This is the what, why, and when for using this strategy. I'm Buti. I've been in the field of disabilities for 31 years. I was a special education teacher, an autism advocate, and the director of autism and intellectual disabilities for the Chicago Public Schools. I'm now the proud owner of AIEPA, advocate and instructional expert for people with autism. Let's get started. So autism is a developmental disability that significantly affects the verbal and nonverbal communication and social interaction of students. It can involve engagement in repetitive activities and stereotype movements. Some demonstrate the resistance to environmental change or change in daily routines. Some demonstrate unusual responses to sensory experiences. But what we know is that children with autism respond really well to visuals. Visuals can support all areas of challenges in students. They can support a number of adaptive behavior skills, task engagement, understanding and processing spoken language, helps with independence, transitioning across activities, social skills, increasing the communication, and so much more. Visuals really help students to take abstract information and make it more concrete. And it really supports with that processing of information. Auditory information is fleeting. It is there and boop, it's gone. Whereas visual information stays there long enough for a student to go back, process it, and get all the information and details they need. So I want to talk about a great visual strategy called schedules, visual schedules. When I think of visual schedules, I think of three different kinds. I think of a classroom schedule, an individual schedule, and then those much needed mini schedules. So we'll talk about them all. In general, a visual schedule teaches a lot. Flexibility, teaches top down or maybe left, right, depending on how you're setting it up. It aids in transitions, helps children to transition throughout the day. It provides predictability to their day, to their environment, which then reduces anxiety. It helps to establish routines. Our children are really good with routines once they're established. It teaches concepts of first and then, and of course, finished, which allows them to move on. It accommodates their receptive language deficits. It increases understanding and then that processing, right? We talk about the processing. Increases independence, which is what we all want for our children, is independence. Motivates our children to work through maybe things they don't like as much to get to the things they do like. And it gets that mind and body ready to what's happening next. So when I think about making a schedule, I think about taking the day, dividing it into segments, give the segment a name, whatever it is you're going to call it. You want to call it number time, math time, whatever activities you're doing, give it the name that you want to call it, and then figure out how you're going to represent it, how that student needs it represented for them to process it. So is it just written words? Is it pictures? Is it color-coded pictures, line drawings, photographs? How is it that your student needs to receive that information? Then select the format. Is it the group or individual? And then select how it's displayed. Is it something that's hung up on the wall? Something that's hung on their desk, something they carry with them from one environment to the next, and then how they will manipulate it. And we'll talk about some strategies for that as we go along. So classroom schedules, they should be posted and utilized or referenced. Too often I see a classroom schedule posted and it's maybe end of the day and they still have the things up that have already occurred. So that means they're not referencing it through the day. They're not utilizing it to actually help students to process their day. And make sure they're clear, predictable, and accurate. I've seen classroom schedules up that aren't accurate to what's happening. Either it's the wrong day, today's Wednesday, they have Tuesdays up, or something changed in the schedule, but they didn't actually change it on the main schedule. And making sure they're in a format where the students in the classroom can process and receive that information, which we'll talk more about. And individual schedules, same thing. You have to make sure they're being utilized and referenced. They're not just something they carry along. We're referencing them throughout the day, and we're manipulating them throughout the day. They're clear, predictable, and accurate. Again, accurate. Make sure that the schedule actually reflects what is taking place on that day, and that it is in a format that they can receive the information and process the information. So if in the individual ones, you want to make sure you have all those things like therapy sessions or any other things, maybe some sensory breaks or other things that are very individualized for that child. We have to consider how much is too much. There might be a student that can only see a half a day at a time. Maybe a student is fine with the full day. Maybe a student just needs a first then until they get better with being able to receive more information at a time. Some students might be too distracted with some things on the schedule, either that they really, really like or they really, really don't like. So it might be too hard for them to see that information until it gets closer to the time. So you have to take all that into consideration when you're developing and designing individual schedules. I always say make the schedule for their hardest day, meaning if a student uses, for example, written words, but if they have a day of high anxiety or a meltdown or a challenge, do they do better if there's also visual pictures involved? If so, make the schedule for that. So maybe the word is really big, but then there's a little bitty visual picture just to support them during their hardest day, their most difficult day. Always make sure there's a way to indicate finished, I'm done, I can now move on, next, completed, no more, whatever it is, make sure there is a way that they can actually indicate that on their schedule. And I'm going to give you some examples here in just a little bit. Please remember that schedules, they're not a crutch, right? They're not something that you're like, oh, he no longer needs the schedule anymore. Because think about it, we all have some kind of a schedule, whether it's your calendar reminder, whether it's like me, old school, I still have a paper schedule, whatever it is, or a little list of the things we're doing for the day. So when you think about a schedule, don't think about how we can work our child out of using it. Think about how to make it more sophisticated and age appropriate as the child learns the skill and becomes more proficient. This one's a big one for me. If something is not going to occur that's on the schedule, don't just take it off and think they won't notice. Because oftentimes our children are very regimented and they know Wednesdays is music. And if the music teacher is not in, don't just leave music off the schedule. Teach flexibility through the schedule. I like to use the universal no symbol. So here's how I would do it. You have your schedule, music teacher is sick. I'm going to put the universal no symbol over music. But then I'm going to embed a pretty powerful reinforcer right after that. Initially, as you're teaching the universal no symbol, the goal is that you see the universal no symbol and you move on. But initially, it's not going to happen. So you're going to put the universal no symbol. You're going to show them like, oh, no music today. But hey, look, guess what? You get 10 minutes of iPad time instead. Just to encourage them to accept the universal no symbol. I also like to have some indicator at the top of the schedule or on my, if it's a paper schedule, on my schedule, that kind of is that red flag. Maybe it is red flag. Ooh, I like that. Some indicator to say, ding, 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 ding. Check your schedule because there's a change. So let's say you did use the red flag or the lightning bolt or a question mark. And then you teach the child to say, uh-oh, we got the red flag. You know what that means? There's a change. Let's see what it is. Teach them to scan down their schedule. They see the universal no symbol. You say, no music. Oh, the teacher is sick. But, oh, look, you get 10 minutes of iPad time instead. So that's how I teach change to help with the flexibility. So the methods of manipulating a schedule is really important. So let's look at some. So remember, because I talked about finished, we have to have a way to indicate finished. So is it a Velcro schedule, which you can have Velcro with pictures or words, but will they take it off when they're finished? So I finished reading, I take it off. Or is it Velcro that you turn over? I've had those too. So I finished reading and I turn it over, and on that side it says finished, and you Velcro that on. Is it a paper one where you cross it off when you're finished? I finished reading, big X. Or a check mark. I finished reading, doot, check. Or is it on a whiteboard where you wipe it off when you're finished? Or is there some kind of finished bin, finished folder, finished baggie where they put it in? Okay, so you really want to think of how is your child going to manipulate the schedule to indicate finished. I also think it's really great initially to teach check your schedule, but you want to do it in such a way that it weans off a human being having to bring them to their schedule to check it. So I like to pair it with some kind of a visual because I love visuals. So let's say I'm going to use the red square with the eyes on it. So I might take the child with that picture and say, time to check your schedule, hand it to them, walk to the schedule, wherever it is, get it out of the desk, whatever it is, and then have them say, okay, yep, we just finished reading. What do we do when we're finished? Check it off. Great job. Okay, what's next? Great. So initially, you will be more involved with the check your schedule. But of course, you want to wean yourself off where maybe then you just hand them the picture to remind them, oh, I have to check my schedule. And then eventually the goal is that once they finish an activity, they will go to their schedule to see what's next. So let's look at some examples. Oh, and you know what? I did say we were going to talk about mini schedules, didn't I? So a mini schedule is something that you use during your day at a particular time where the child might break down or need more detail. So maybe on the schedule, initially it just says locker, classroom, journal, reading, break, math. So some students might be like, great, yeah, I know what to do when I go to my locker. But some students might need in their locker a mini schedule of here's what you do in your locker. So mini schedules are great. I have some examples even. So here's one: hang up your coat and backpack, take your homework out, take homework out of the folder, put it in the bin, put notebook on the table. Because this little time in the morning was something the child just didn't follow through with, was really breaking down. So you just simply make a little bitty checklist and they check them off. Maybe you have a mini schedule that you use during therapy time. So in therapy, we are going to do this activity, this activity, this activity, and then this. I love the little flaps for completing. So that one wasn't on our list of manipulations, right? But you can. You're finished, you close it off. You're finished, you close it off. So that's a great one. So another mini schedule I used in the morning, this was great. So there was a little boy in the morning who really struggled with just the entering the school. He had a behavior almost every day. So we made him one that said, walk to school, because he walked to school with his dad. So we have a little picture of him walking to school. Hang up coat, say hello to Miss Gonzalez, sit on the carpet. So a very simple little mini schedule that got him into the day without behaviors. He was struggling so much with that morning routine. This is even another little mini schedule too, right? Just what it seems like those morning times seem to be quite the struggle. So you could have student schedules like this where each child has a different color. They have their photo on it. They have their Velcro pictures. Once an activity is done, on this one, you have the little red circle that moves down with the activity. That's how they're indicating that they're doing the activity. This one as well, you have a color and then your name at the top. And then when your activity is done, you put it in the finished envelope there at the bottom. Another one, this one is magnetic. This is on a whiteboard. And when students are finished, they get to put it in a little folder there at the little envelope for finished. This used to hold like pamphlets at a store. When you're finished, you just put it in the little finished thing. Kids love this. They love a little bell and whistle in their activity. This one was they checked it off when they were finished. They added up how many finished they did. They got a certain amount of points. They had like point activities at the end of the day where they can trade their points in. This is a simple binder. I loved this one because it was a child that was included in general ed for much of his day. So walking through the hallway with a binder did not seem unusual, but what he was learning to do was where he was going, the activity he was going, the class he was going to was always on the right. So if you were walking down the hall, someone would know, oh, you're going to gym. Yep, great job. Yep, it's right down there. And then in the folder was where he put it when he was finished. There's a little plastic bag, but it also had tabs for each subject, which had his visual support in there that he might need during that time. So like for math, he had his number line in there and his multiplication chart. In gym, he had like his mini schedule for his activities, his exercises. So that was a great strategy. You know, you can have a whiteboard schedule, especially for the mini ones. I find that using a little whiteboard for those mini schedules, the time where they need just a little bit of extra support, are perfect. You can write on it, you can erase it. So we have to remember, we can't keep all the magic to ourselves. So if schedules are working and we know the format that the child is doing really well with, share it with the family, help them to create a schedule for the child at home. So this might be a schedule for the child's morning routine, right? You have a couple of visuals there. This might also be one that their home routine, home schedule. I love this one with the little flip close and there's a check mark. I love it. So again, sharing it with the home. So you might also have schedules for like different activities that help with like regulation. So or sensory input. So maybe, you know, what do I need when I'm having a situation where I need input or visuals? So I'm going to do 5 arm circles, 5 band pulls, 5 bounces with the legs, so that it's a schedule of things that they might need to help regulate. You can use Google Keep, which is a great way you can check off the things right in Google Keeps. You might have something very simple, 1, 2, 3. So the child just has 3 activities that they need to do, and you just put the pictures or the words right on there. You might have an object schedule. This is going to really age me. This was like 21 years ago I made this. So they're plastic baggies that have book tape on the side and a little handle so they can carry it or put it on their wheelchair if they have a wheelchair. And in the baggies would be an object that represents what that activity is. So that was really successful for those kids who needed that. So I've had students that this strategy really works well with. The schedule is posted, or they have it on a piece of paper, but it's like what you'll do and what the teacher will do. Really nice strategy, right? So you enter your room, you greet your teacher, you put away your backpack, you put your homework in the bin, you sit at your desk, but then the teacher also has tasks. Another one might be this. Very simple, right? But it's a schedule of things that you want them to do. And then here's what the teacher will do. I was using that for more of like middle school kids. Same type of thing for small groups and rotations. So how do we create these schedules? Well, remember, you first have to know what your child needs in order to process and receive the information. But you can use photographs, real pictures, Google search images, use line drawings, use objects like we just talked about, logos or labels. You can write written word, use lesson pics, board maker, symbol sticks. So there's a lot of different ways you can make a schedule. Just make sure that you're working with the team, so we're all using the same. So you're not using one thing in school versus one thing at home versus one thing in private therapy. So, really work with the team so there's consistency. My final thoughts: a visual schedule is only good if it's being referenced or utilized. So don't just make the schedule, make sure you're utilizing it, you're referencing it, there's a way to manipulate it, a way to indicate finished. And the goal is independence. So the schedule is going to help with independence. So don't eliminate it, just make it more sophisticated and age appropriate as you go. And that's it. Thanks for coming. Thank you so much. I'm Mo Buti. You can reach me at mobuti@hotmail.com or go check out my website, aiepautism.com. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for watching. For more information on the ATP Education Program, please visit our website at atp.nebraska.gov/education or email us at atp.education@nebraska.gov.